The South Carolina Gamecocks took a step forward as a football program last year, going 8-5, improving upon 6-6. Can they keep it going in 2023? Southeastern 14 is here to talk about 2023 expectations for the South Carolina Gamecocks. Hello, everyone. I'm Blayne Gilmer. Welcome to Southeastern 14. Here at Southeastern 14, we cover all things SEC, whether it's SEC basketball, SEC baseball. Chris Lee, Blake Level do a great job with that. And I am here even during the offseason covering SEC football. We've done Alabama quarterback battle videos just a little while ago. We're doing best case, worst case scenario for teams. But specifically for the South Carolina Gamecocks, I just wanted to talk about the expectations of that program and what should be expected there in Columbia in 2023. Because now in the Shane Beamer era, you are entering into year 3. And that is the year where it is expected to see the most movement. They go from 7-6 year 1, winning the Duke's Mayo Bowl there with, really no real quarterback, all that kind of stuff. It was a great story. Then in comes Spencer Rattler for year 2, and they have some ups and downs, things like that. A great end to the season in terms of the regular season with what they did with Tennessee and what they did against Clemson. Then a tough bowl game. Like I said, listen, bowl games nowadays with opt-outs and things like that, there's always, built-in excuses and things to go by there. But we have to talk about Shane Beamer himself as a football coach, okay? I think Shane Beamer, and I want to preface this by saying, has brought a lot of energy, a lot of excitement to the South Carolina program. I think he brings a lot of pride with him to that program in terms of, he was there during the heyday of the Spurrier era and when Connor Shaw was there, doing things for that program, and it was kind of at its high water mark, so to speak, Jadeveon Clowney, all that kind of stuff. Okay. But now what you have is Shane Beamer having to put his own stamp on this thing. And I think he's done that with the energy that he's brought. He's done that with how he's been creative on social media, all this kind of stuff. All that is great. It's resulted in some really big pickups in recruiting. Cam Pringle, #1 offensive tackle, Nichols Harbor, #1 athlete in the country in this past class. So there's some talent influx coming in. There's also some talent being shipped out of there. With Jaheim Bell, Marshawn Lloyd having transferred out. And that's just the nature of the transfer portal and then the NIL and all the stuff that goes on now. So I'm not casting aspersions or making blame one way or another there. Jordan Birch is out, a bunch of guys that they have to replace. Even Austin Stogner headed back to Oklahoma after coming for 1 year. But in terms of roster management, everything seems to be pretty good on that front in terms of being able to bring in things and bring in replacements. But what I need to see out of Shane Beamer is he's, first of all, by all accounts, a great husband and father. He's a great guy when it comes to interactions with his players, showing his players that he cares, all the stuff that is, in terms of being a good man and a good players coach. Shane Beamer's got it. I think what Shane Beamer and South Carolina have to decide is, what are our expectations? What are we trying to say the standard is? Because if the standard is being the best in the SEC, if the standard is being a year in, year out, got to go compete for a college football playoff, well, that means you have to get on Georgia's level. That means you have to get on Alabama and LSU's level. And at times, I think Shane Beamer's roller coaster of emotions does not lend itself to that. Because Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Brian Kelly, they're not worried about every single little media report that conflicts something that's going on in their program, or that calling out people on Twitter that they say, I normally don't respond to JV second-rate radio programs. Well, then don't respond to it, Shane. Okay? Because all that does is show that you are caught up giving your attention elsewhere instead of your attention being either on your family or on that college football program, because those are the two things that matter the most when you're the head coach. You got to take care of things at home, and you got to take things in that building, and the opinions of anybody outside of that building, my opinion, anybody else in the media's opinion of you and what you're doing, should not matter enough to you for you to take the time to respond to it on Twitter. I could not even imagine Kirby Smart or Nick Saban doing that. Now, will they respond to stuff in roundabout ways, in their kind of Jedi mind trick type ways that they do stuff in press conferences and things? Absolutely. Absolutely. But also the demeanor at times, okay? The demeanor at times in press conferences after, if they lose a game or something like that, just acting like a petulant child at times in your demeanor. Your team sees that, okay? And Shane Beamer is too good of a guy and too good of a high energy guy. I mean, look at the smile, okay? You don't have to be happy when you lose. Absolutely not. You're a competitor, okay? But I think that South Carolina, and it starts at the top, needs to start carrying itself like, hey, the expectation is being the best if they want to be the best. And I think Shane Beamer has that in him because he's seen his dad do it for, decades at Virginia Tech. Just a true, staple of, okay, one foot in front of the other, blue collar, work hard. And I think the South Carolina program certainly has that in him. And I hope Shane will, in year 3, continue to mature as a head coach for South Carolina and not worry as much about the outside noise. Dell Loggins comes in as offensive coordinator. This is largely in part one thing that Shane has been upset about with the media. Okay. Don't feel like you have to defend Dell Loggins. Okay. Because if Dell Loggins is the guy, then that's the guy, and you don't have to worry about it. Who cares if people are reporting that, you missed out on Garrett Riley or something like that, even if it's not true. Okay. Dell Loggins, the facts are the facts. He's been a NFL offensive coordinator. He's been in the NFL for 13 years at different points, different stops. Okay. From 2017 to 2020, Dell Loggins was a NFL offensive coordinator, and every team, every offense that he coordinated in those years finished 30th or worse out of 32 teams in total yardage. It is what it is. People are going to point that out, okay? Does not mean he's not going to be a good offensive coordinator at South Carolina. In fact, you could argue that he's going to take those experiences from the NFL, how hard it is to win on Sundays, how hard it is to scheme up winning concepts on Sundays, and bring things and adapt to the college game. Listen, he's been around Sam Pittman at Arkansas. He was the tight end coach at Arkansas, and being around a guy like a Sam Pittman who is going to not necessarily be an X's and O's guru, but a guy that is going to be loose and give guys freedom to be able to go out there and kind of have fun with offense, be imaginative. Look what Kendall Briles did before heading out to TCU, okay? So Dell Loggins was exposed to that, to the Kendall Briles offense, things of that nature. So I'm sure that there's going to be things different, and it's never a bad thing to have that NFL experience, in my opinion. But I don't think we have to act like, okay, everybody at South Carolina or fans or whatever have to be excited about the Dell Loggins hire. Doesn't mean that he's going to be good or bad coming in based off fan expectations or excitement. No. But I think that Shane Beamer and company in South Carolina need to understand that's a good thing. If the fans are wanting to, see a certain level of hire and things like that. And I think that Shane Beamer truly does believe that Dell Loggins is going to have success there, and he's going to be able to help Spencer Rattler this year and try to take things to the next level. So we'll see how Dell Loggins and company do in year 1 under his reign as offensive coordinator. Of course, Clayton White returns as the defensive coordinator. Listen, they're only returning 4 starters. They've got a lot of pieces to fix. It was kind of up and down for South Carolina defensively, as well as times they kind of put it together there late, did enough to stifle that Tennessee offense in that blowout win they had there. Of course, they frustrated Clemson as well. Didn't play quite as well in the bowl game against Notre Dame, even though they ended up having two scores defensively there. So you can never complain about that when the defense is punching the ball in the end zone there. So I think that things are going to be fine on the defense side of the ball. We're going to talk about some of those replacements here in a minute. Spencer Rattler largely is going to be how this season is dictated, how the success of this season goes. He has to be more consistent as well. Consistency is the key word for South Carolina in 2023. We've seen Spencer Rattler play out of his mind at times. We know he's one of the most talented guys in the country in terms of when he's on and when he gets hot, he's able to string together some accurate throws, be able to push the ball down the field, navigate the pocket in both inside and outside of it. I think that Spencer Rattler has all the tools to move forward and just be a tremendous leader for South Carolina. But he's got to do it on a consistent basis because, listen, Marshawn Lloyd gone. Like I said, this running back room is largely unproven. But so it's going to be incumbent upon Spencer Rattler to kind of get things going. Him and Dell Loggins work closely to make sure that they are efficient and avoid turnovers, things of the nature like that. I think him coming back was huge for South Carolina, gives some continuity there. Even though they're changing coordinators, I'm sure not all the terminology, and Shane Beamer has said not all the terminology is going to change. There's going to be some things new. There's going to be a lot of stuff kept in from the previous year that they had success with. So look for Spencer Rattler in year 2 at South Carolina to show even more growth. And this is a big year for him. This is the year where he's going to put it all out there and show that he can, play efficient, take care of the football, and be productive as well, so that he can raise his stock going to the NFL after this season. If you're Spencer Rattler, look no further than Juice Wells right here. Juice Wells is the leading receiver. He's the leading playmaker for South Carolina returning. He's a guy who, listen, he should be one of the top receivers in the SEC this year. He's electrifying and a guy that South Carolina is really going to have to find ways to creatively get the football. All right. I think that he can be that guy that, flips a game on its head totally, because he's got that big playability. And I think when you're talking about the continuity there, you've got, Spencer Rattler with his most explosive guy coming back in Juice Wells. So I think that's something to be excited about for that offense. It's going to be incumbent upon Dell Loggins. Hey, listen, you want to make people think you're good at your job, that it was prove Shane Beamer right on the hire. Get Juice Wells the ball. He'll make you look right for sure. At running back, I mentioned Marshawn Lloyd is gone. Listen, Juju McDowell is the best option that South Carolina has right now. They have a transfer coming in from D2. Yes, Division II, Newberry College. Mario Anderson put up all kinds of numbers down there at the D2 level, but it's a step up going from D2 to SEC. So we'll see how fast he picks up the pace, is able to adjust to things there. Mario Anderson, they have Dontavius Braswell, who was recruited by a ton of other SEC schools, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia. So I think that Braswell coming in will end up being, honestly, a Marshawn Lloyd type back. I think he's going to be really, really explosive, a guy that can run in between the tackles and out on the perimeter. But I think using Juju McDowell in creative ways, if you are Dell Loggins, like I said, get the ball to Juice Wells. Also, get the ball to Juju McDowell often, and hopefully that young man's able to, stay healthy and just be the explosive player electrifying player that he is for South Carolina. And if so, that could be a big deal for the Gamecocks, as I think McDowell brings a lot to the table. And McDowell will be running behind a offensive line that is going to be returning 3 starters from last year. Jalen Nichols, Ja'Kai Moore, and Vershawn Lee all coming back. They have transfers coming in Sidney Fugar from Western Illinois, Nick Gargiulo from Yale, that could end up being starters. So listen, I'm not saying that you're overly excited about guys coming in from, the smaller ranks. They've got a lot of guys trying to level up, right? I said Mario Anderson coming from Newberry Division II up to South Carolina. They got guys coming in from Western Illinois and Yale here on the offensive line. Gargiulo's looking to replace Eric Douglas at center. Who knows how that is all going to pan out, but they've got some new blood, some new pieces coming in. They have to protect better. They give up 20 sacks in SEC play last year, and they also need to, be able to wash some people up front. Give Juju McDowell some time and some space to operate in, because it doesn't take much. You can just get a good double team and, get a seal here, a seal there, as Vince Lombardi used to say. Just a little crack for Juju McDowell. And I think South Carolina could be very productive. Listen, they showed explosivity last year under Matt Satterfield in the latter part of that season. Of course, he's headed on to Nebraska. But if this offensive line, with another year under their belt, with 3 starters returning, if they can be more cohesive, more productive, then I think Juju McDowell and company will have a lot of success, and Spencer Rattler will have success because he'll feel comfortable back there in the pocket. So pass protection you got to pick up, and I think they'll be fine running the football in those terms. Defensive line, okay, up front, the defensive tackles are where they have most of the experience coming back. You see big Tonka Hemingway here. They also have Alex Huntley coming back on the defensive front, but they lost a lot out on the edges, okay, whether it was Jordan Birch, who transferred away to Oregon, whether it's Gilbert Edmond, who transferred to Florida State, Zach Pickens goes to the NFL. All of these guys are gone. Okay, so when it comes down to it, can Jordan Strawn come back healthy enough? Right now, probably not, doing as much in spring practice, things of that nature, but having him back for his leadership would be huge. They've got some guys who are some freshman contributors that could be there right off the bat. Heck, there's even talks about taking Nichols Harbor, who's going to be a receiver tight end, and on third downs being able to flip him over and let him be an edge rusher defensively, because the guy is a freak athlete. So they only got 20 sacks last year. They gave up 20 sacks offensive line, only got 20 defensively. They would want to get more as a team. I mean, heck, look, the most explosive defensive players in the SEC are, guys like, a couple of years ago for Georgia, Robert Beal had 10.5 sacks alone, when Alabama's Will Anderson had 17.5 sacks a season ago before this past season. So that sack number of 20 is not high, and they need to make sure that they're generating a pass rush. But you got a big guy like Tonka Hemingway and, like I said, Alex Huntley in there stopping the run. Should be pretty good for South Carolina. They should be able to hold up there. Can South Carolina get more pass rush with the defensive front? That's a question there. Jerron Willis comes in at inside linebacker, bringing a lot of depth there with guys like Debo Williams, Stone Blanton. Pup Howard is a freshman coming in, so I think they'll be okay at linebacker, even though they're replacing Brad Johnson and Sherrod Green. So defensive back-wise, they lose Cam Smith and Darius Rush out on the edges. Who becomes the starting corners over there? Guys like O'Donnell Fortune, Marcellus Dial are all in line trying to compete for those jobs. But the leader of that secondary coming back, Nick Amenwari at safety, he really was impressive, kind of bursting onto the scene last year. And I think he's going to be a guy that South Carolina looks to kind of rally that defense. Okay, in terms of expectations and the season here, these are games right here that if you are what you think you are, to quote Dennis Green, they are who we thought they were. Okay. If South Carolina is that team and if they are going to take this next step, these are games that you must win. No ifs, ands, or buts. South Carolina must go 4-0 to take that next step. Okay. To be able to look to get double-digit wins, to be able to look to be that team that tries to push Georgia in the SEC East. Okay. You have to win all of these games. One North Carolina game just because, hey, that's a cross state rivalry. It's the battle of the Carolinas there. Got to take care of that. They did so in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, a couple of seasons ago with Shane Beamer. Listen, that's partly what I blame some of the emotional stuff on with Shane Beamer. They gave that man CTE trying to hit him in the head with that Duke's Mayo, that cooler full of Duke's Mayo, just absolutely domed him on the back there. So I was interested in there with a couple years ago, but they got beat North Carolina. Florida is down. Vanderbilt is Vanderbilt, and Mississippi State is going through a time of transition. If South Carolina is that program that's going to look to take that next step, they have to go 4-0 in those games. Here are the games that are away games that are going to be very tough. At Georgia, at Tennessee, at Missouri, at A&M. It is never easy to win on the road in the SEC, period. I don't care where you're going. I don't care who you're playing. Winning on the road in the SEC is what separates the good teams or the mid-tier teams from the great teams. And can South Carolina find a way to win at worst 2 of these games? Can they find a way to win 3? I doubt they're going to win all 4 of them, especially that Georgia game. Georgia is absolutely loaded once again, but it's always, listen, South Carolina always seems to come into Athens and play Georgia tough, so you got to give them credit for that. But going to Knoxville is a crazy atmosphere. That game, the Battle of the Columbias over there, Missouri, it's a weird atmosphere every time that you go to Columbia, Missouri. It's a tough deal, okay? When you're going over there, sometimes you get the 11 a.m. kickoff. This would be an October 21st game, and it could be, like I said, early kick could affect things there, the kind of juice, just your routine on the road. But I think that these games are going to make or break these road games right here. A&M is looking to bounce back big as well, and this is kind of the last year of that crossover rivalry, if you will, between A&M and South Carolina. So last trip to College Station, I think that South Carolina's got to really take advantage of that if they want to take the next step. So kind of looking at the full schedule here, listen, they've got Jacksonville State there late in the year. They have a home game with Kentucky that's going to be tough, and they have a home game with Clemson. Can they finish strong in those 2 games? Like I said, those 4 games that I showed you early with North Carolina, and then, of course, they got home games later on against Mississippi State, against Florida, and against Vanderbilt. Those are the games I think they will go 4-0 in those games. The road games that I showed you of Georgia, Tennessee, Missouri, Texas A&M, I think they split those, probably go 2-2. Okay, so that gives you two losses on the year. And then you've got a Furman game that's going to be a win. So that would give you 5 wins, Jacksonville State 6 wins, and then you're talking about Kentucky and Clemson if you could win those games. So I'm thinking you're looking expectation wise, if you can win 9 games, make that jump. Okay, make that jump from 8-5 to 9-3 regular season. Have a chance to get a 10-win year in the year 3 for Shane Beamer. I think the expectations have to be we're going to compete with Georgia. Okay, we are going to win some of these road games that we should win. No taking a dip, no taking a step back. win the games against the teams that you are better than in terms of, I think South Carolina is better than Florida. I think South Carolina is better than Vanderbilt. I think South Carolina, of course, is better than North Carolina and Mississippi State. If they are, in fact, do that, then I think Shane Beamer and company can take that next step. It's just all about consistency now. And it's about managing the emotions and keeping the main thing, focusing in on how everything is supposed to go. So I believe that South Carolina can take a step forward this year, but the expectation should be, get to that 9-10 win mark. And then with the recruiting class that Shane Beamer has brought in here lately, then you go to try to compete with Georgia and company in 2024. But that should be the standard. Trying to compete in the SEC East every year. So those are the expectations that I think should be set for South Carolina in 2023. For Southeastern 14, I am Blayne Gilmer. Hope you will like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and catch all of our SEC content here as we are talking SEC football, basketball, baseball, all the time here on Southeastern 14. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.